My name is Elisa John. I've been at BT for 10 years, and what I do is I'm part of the creative team here at BT Church, and I just started doing an internship in this past summer, and it's just been an amazing experience to be able to serve and see how I'm using my gifts to help pour back into what God has called me to do. I believe that I've been called to ministry because I just felt ever since I was a little girl that my words have power, and God has been just giving me so many opportunities to use my words to encourage people, whether it's through my writing, through speaking, through conversations I've had. Ever since I started high school, I just felt a calling to start my own ministry called An Esther Generation. The focus of this ministry is to empower girls and young women my age to embrace their eternal worth, purpose, and identity in Jesus. Through this time, I've been creating devotionals, a blog, a podcast, social media posts, all of that to just better serve the community and teach them more about what it looks like to walk with Jesus daily. So ever since I was a little girl, I mentioned I had that calling for ministry and just a calling for communication, but I wasn't really sure how to make this practical. I loved doing social media posts through my ministry or writing devotionals, but I really felt like there needed to be a space for women to just hear from other women. So the first conference began in 2022, so we were still recovering from COVID and the effects of quarantine. So because of that, the first conference actually took place online, and we had a lot of help with BT Church. We actually set up the whole conference right here in BT studio, and through this time, via Zoom meetings, we had speakers and breakout sessions that helped empower girls to learn what it means to rise up in their faith and to share the gospel right where they are. So that's how the first conference began, just right in a studio. But even through that time, I just felt a strong passion that this was only the beginning. I remember there was one day when I was just stressing about everything that was going on with the conference, not knowing where God was going to provide, especially in regards to the money, the people who was going to show up, even just making sure that all the people that came felt welcome. And it was right around the time, probably around midnight or late night, and then my mom texted me and sent me a picture of a devotional, and the devotional theme was defeating giants. And so the theme of the devotional was essentially saying that we have a lot of our what if questions, and all of our what if questions are marked by fear, such as what if we don't have enough money, what if no one comes up, what if this doesn't turn out the way that we hoped or even dreamed about. But then the devotional talked about answering our what if questions from a perspective of faith, believing that people were going to show up, believing that the rooms were going to be filled, that God was going to provide. And she said that right after she sent me that devotional, she heard a text message from her phone, and she saw that one of the people that we had talked to, one of the PTO volunteers at my sister's elementary, actually gave us a $100 donation for the cost of money. 2 days before the conference, BT Church helped host a Live to Leave conference at our church, and they had a few leftover snacks, and we were just about to go buy snacks, water, just everything we needed just to make people feel welcome all throughout the day. But as soon as we did, right after the conference, the host of the conference so generously donated all the leftover snacks, and after the conference ended, it turned out that it was the exact amount we needed. So we didn't even need to pay to buy any water bottles or any food or supplies because it was already provided for. The day before the conference, we were just setting everything up, and we only originally planned to have like maybe 1 or 2 tablecloths just to cover the tables. But then we found out that the worship leader and her family actually drove all the way from Alice and bought these beautiful centerpieces and a whole photo backdrop. And what's crazy is that even though none of this was planned, all of the backdrop and all of the centerpieces matched exactly with the decorations that we had already set up. So just to see the way the theme was all brought together with the theme of ruins to restoration, and how even though all we had was ruins, God was bringing restoration by bringing his people together, to just empowering them to rise up in their calling and just partner with the local church. So I've seen his provision in so many ways. So our original demographic for the Rise Up conference was geared towards younger audiences, especially students such as teen girls, even a little bit of younger adult women. But then when we started planning for the conference, we saw so many people show up and sign up that were completely out of our age range. We saw older women, adult women just coming with their daughters, maybe even bringing their friends along the way. And a lot of these people I have never even met before. I've never even seen them at BT. So it is amazing to see how while this conference originally started to reach a younger audience, we were able to reach not just them, but also young adult women and older women who all came and just were poured into by the love of God. So to see how God just brought all of the messages together to reach this demographic in such amazing ways is just proof that when we show up to serve, we think we know that God is going to provide, but we're not really sure how or how He's going to meet these needs. But then we see that God shows up in ways that are so much bigger than anything we could have expected. And seeing all of these people gather together, multiple generations in one room, just crying out to God on bended knee, lifting their hands up in surrender, it was just so beautiful. Because in that room, I saw people walk in with so many wounds, but when they walked out knowing that God was in the midst of them, that God was continuing to bring restoration in ways that they might have never even believed. And while they walked in maybe feeling hopeless, having burdens that they might not have even told anyone else, God was bringing redemption and renovation through all aspects of their life. I remember when I first had that call to ministry and I was just getting started and I had no clue where to even begin, and there were so many moments when I doubted my calling, where I felt like I was just getting in my own head that maybe I heard God wrong. But God just continued to provide as I was faithful in showing up in the here and now, showing up on the days when I was exhausted, when I felt burnt out, when I faced spiritual opposition, when I felt isolated in my calling. I just continued to show up and trust that it's not from my power or my strength or my might, but it's through the almighty power of the Holy Spirit. And He is going to move in you and through you, and He is going to use the worst parts of your story and He's going to renovate it and turn it into something so beautiful. So if you feel called to ministry, just start. Pay attention to your gifts and talents and spend time praying over them and asking God how you can serve Him using what you already have, and just be faithful. Pay attention to people that other people wouldn't notice. Be the person that goes after the one that encourages people right where they are. And you may feel like no one is showing up, that your words don't make a difference, but I promise you, your seeds are always being planted. I went from doing online Bible studies where maybe 1 or 2 people showed up to then a few years later hosting a conference where the whole room was filled with people. I have seen God provide again and again and again, and that's because our God is a God who continues to work in above and beyond ways. It's not dependent on our own strength, and when we're in ministry, it can be so easy for us to get in our own heads that we start making everything about ourselves and what we are doing good or maybe even doing bad. But it's not about you. It's about you showing up in faithfulness and obedience, and God is going to take care of the rest because He always does more than able. And I have seen how He has brought every single detail of my life, even the parts that seem unimportant, and He makes them all beautiful and creates a masterpiece with it. And I believe He wants to do the same through you.